That's my ex's name.
What you say?
He's just talking about her solar return.
Oh wow, she popped up. Wowzers. I got it there. All righty. Peaceful greetings, peace and love to you all. I am Brother Sean Alim L. From the 7 Hill Star Astrology Firm, one of the 5 Astro Magnificent Bros, and here for another episode of Intuition Monday. Not sure how many episodes, we just been going in, we just keep going. But I am here with we got 2 of the bros here today. First up, is a living master, and he is.
Oh, you are so hilarious and so kind. Namaste, namaste, namaste. Islam, Islam, Islam. I am Brother Hassan Ghazi Obey here in Morocco at northwest of Mexico. How are you? Exalted.
Also have.
I couldn't wait, yo. I couldn't wait.
Me either.
Peace and love, much gratitude for being here, present. I am Brother Corey Bay. Peace and love to all.
Islam. Let's get it. All right, Brother Sean, I yield.
And we about to go right in on Michael Martin King. Michael Martin Luther King, whatever you like to call him. But today I found out, he was Michael first? So we did a little research there. Shout out to Living Master for bringing that up. And so we definitely saw a name change there. So trying to think, should we start out with the chart or no? Actually, no. Let's go to what we first started out on. What we was going in on. So we was going in on Martin Luther, and this is the German religious leader. So who was Martin Luther? We ain't talking about Mike Jones, right? Who? Martin Luther.
Mike Kang. Okay, stop.
Martin. Martin.
So that'll be great then. We can go from Martin Luther from the 1400s and then look at the biography, so to speak, pertaining to Michael Martin Luther King, right?
Would he be still dreaming on fofo? Still dreaming on fofo?
Yo, Swisher Dream House. Let me stop.
Oh my god,
that would be that. Actually, he would be tipping on 4 foes on Selma. Let me stop. Okay, so all right, I yield.
Oh my god, he's still dreaming on 4
Don't be
foes.
offended, you Negro black colored. I'm
Oh,
having fun, about to bring you some more truth that may be uncomfortable to your beliefs, but it's okay. We're here to love on you and give you the truth, because we don't want you to be Rihanna. Don't love the way we lie. That's what we're saying. You gotta love the truth, all righty? So I yield to you, Brother Sean. Islam,
Baptist. Oh man.
Yeah.
He's still dreaming on 4 foes. All right. Whew. All right.
For real.
Whew. Let's do this. All right.
Let's get it.
All right. So Martin Luther manifested, born November 10th, 1483 at Elsleben, Saxony, now in Saxony-Anhalt, Germany. He transitioned February 18th, 1546, Elsleben. He was a German theologian and religious reformer who was the catalyst pertaining to the 16th century.
You're not sharing, bro.
Oh, my bad. Oh, hold on, let me come back right here. Boom, boom. There we go.
Martin Luther the King.
A king. We was kings and shit. All right, so yes, German theologian and religious reformer who was the catalyst pertaining to the 16th century Protestant Reformation. Through his words and actions, Luther precipitated a movement that reformulated certain basic tenets of Christian belief and resulted in the division of Western Christendom between Roman Catholicism and the new Protestant traditions, mainly Lutheranism, Calvinism, Anglicanism, the Anabaptists, and the Anti-Trinitarians. Trinitarians.
Anti-Trinitarian. Look, they was against the Trinity. They're like, you know what? In place of the Trinity, anti-Trinitarians. Look at that. I yield.
We are not down with the Son, Father, and the Holy Spirit. We ain't down with that.
We're not down with the sun, moon, and ascendant. Go ahead, I yield.
Islam. He is one of the most influential figures in the history pertaining to Christianity. Let's see. You want to go through this early life and education?
Okay, let's go paragraph for paragraph. Me and Brother Corey. I'll do the first one, and Brother Corey can end out on the last one. Soon after Martin Luther, right? After his birth, right, so to speak, quote unquote, his manifestation, his family moved to Islesbon, right? To the small town pertaining to Mansfeld, some 10 miles, 16 kilometers to the northwest. His father, Hans Luther, Han Solo, right? He was a Jedi. Anyway, who prospered in the local copper refining business. Sounds like slavery to me. You're refining copper. Anyway, that's the people. Anyway, because they were, doing church stuff, no, they weren't taking over the copper tone people's lands, talking about be Christian. They're refining the copper. Okay, I'm just saying, anyway, became a town councilor of Mansfield in 1492. There are few sources, go figure, pertaining to information about Martin Luther's childhood, apart from his recollections as an old man. Understandably, they seem to be colored by a certain romantic nostalgia. I yield to you, Brother Corey.
Oh, where art thou?
Luther began his education.
Luther began his education at a Latin school in Mansfeld in the spring pertaining to 1488. There he received a thorough training in the Latin language and learned by rote the 10 Commandments, the Lord's Prayer, and the Apostles' Creed, and morning and evening prayers. In 1497, Luther was sent to nearby Magdeburg. That sounds so familiar. However, we'll continue to attend a school operated by the Brethren of the Common Life, a lay monastic order whose emphasis on personal piety apparently exerted a lasting influence upon him. In 1501, the matriculated, in 1501, he matriculated at the University of Erfurt. that sound like some Medea shit, bro. The University of Erfurt, at the time one of the most distinguished universities in Germany. The matriculation records describe him as inhabindo, meaning that he was ineligible for financial aid, an indirect testimonial to the financial success of his father. Luther
they was like, your father's so poor. How poor is he? Okay, never mind. Go ahead, I yield.
Luther took the customary course in the liberal arts and received the baccalaureate. Baccalaureate. Okay, baccalaureate degree in 1502. 3 years later, he was awarded the master's degree. His studies gave him a thorough exposure to scholasticism, right? Mm-hmm. Many years later, he spoke of Aristotle and William of Ockham as his teachers, quote unquote.
The only reason I recognize that term baccalaureate because when I graduated from Baltimore City College High School in 2002, I actually graduated being a part of the IB program, which is the International Baccalaureate program. Even though I bird coursed it, I even think I missed like 40 days in my senior year just being at the studio, honestly, making music. Like practicing dance moves and stuff. Like, we got this show coming up, so I gotta make sure I'm sharp. Like, anyway, but yeah, man, so basically receiving a baccalaureate degree is just basically like saying that what do they call it? AP programs in other schools, sort of kind of, but it was like advanced AP or some shit like that. But anyhow, yeah. So liberal arts, look at that, right? Reading, writing, arithmetic, astronomy. What else is it? Astronomy, reading, writing. Pardon me. Rhetoric, grammar, and logic. Arithmetic, astronomy, music, and geometry. Those are the 7 liberal arts. First was the trivium, then the second is the 4, which is the quadrivium. Right? I think I got that right. I trust that I got that right. Right. And eventually Martin Luther, brother Sean just scrolls down. Eventually he joins like a Hermetic order or something that was named after a Hermetic, monk or something. Right. Having graduated from the arts faculty, Luther was eligible, right, to pursue graduate work in one of the 3 higher, quote unquote, disciplines, law, medicine, or theology, in accordance with the wishes of his father. Man, he had to know astrology, bro. There's no way. You can't do either one of those without knowing astrology, law, medicine, or theology. Doing those independent of astrology, yeah, you're a dumbass. In accordance with the wishes pertaining to his father, he commenced the study pertaining to law. Proudly, he purchased a copy of the Corpus Juris Canonici, right, which is the body of law pertaining to the canons, right? Canon, corpus of canon law, quote unquote, in parentheses, that is, the collection pertaining to ecclesiastical law texts and other important legal textbooks. Less than 6 weeks later, however, on the 17th July, 1505, Luther abandoned the study. He relinquished his jurisdiction at law school. He abandoned the study pertaining to law and entered the monastery in Erfurt pertaining to the Order of Hermits of St. Augustine, right? A mendicant order founded in 1256. His explanation for his abrupt change of heart was that a violent thunderstorm near the village of Starenheim had terrified him to such a degree that he involuntarily vowed to become a monk if he survived. Wow. That's gotta be the most disingenuous type, please, Lord, if you just get me out of this, I'll be a monk. It's just like, yo, right? Because his vow was clearly made under duress, Luther could easily have ignored it. Exactly. The fact that he did not indicates that the thunderstorm experience was only a catalyst for much deeper motivations. Luther's father was understandably angry with him for abandoning a prestigious and lucrative career in law in favor of the monastery, right? In response to Luther's avowal that in the thunderstorm he had been besieged, quote, besieged by the terror and agony of sudden death, end quote. It's interesting that he said that, if he said that. His father said only, quote, may it not prove an illusion and deception, right? Just to kind of just go there or whatever, just to briefly do that. So this is who, Martin Luther King Jr. is technically named after. And the reason why, me and the bros are going over it, it's like, look, what energy did Martin Luther King take on by him no longer being Michael King and now having a change to calling to Martin Luther King? Does he now take on the energy pertaining to Martin Luther? And I'm going to say yes, but I yield the floor to Brother Sean. Islam,
we're going to go through probably just real quick through early life and education and just the early childhood, just to give the people kind of like a sense of everything. So King was born, Michael King Jr., on January 5th, 1929 in Atlanta,
15th?
Georgia.
15th, you're correct.
Yeah. The second middle child, right, as bro said, of 3 children of Michael King and Alberta King. King had an older sister, Christine King Ferris, and a younger brother, Alfred Daniel, quote unquote, A.D. King. Alberta's father, Adam Daniel Williams, was a minister in rural Georgia. moved to Atlanta in 1893 and became pastor pertaining to the Ebenezer Baptist Church. In the following year, Williams married Jenny Celeste. Look at that, Celestial Parks. King Sr. was born to sharecroppers, James Albert and Delia King of Stockbridge, Georgia, and was of African-Irish descent. In his adolescent years, King Sr. left his parents' farm and walked to Atlanta, where he attained a high school education and enrolled in Morehouse College to study for entry to the ministry. King Sr. and Alberta began dating in 1920 and married on November 25th, 1926. Until Jenny's death in 1941, they lived together on the second floor of Alberta's parents' two-story Victorian home where King was manifested. Shortly after marrying Alberta, King Sr. became assistant pastor of the Ebenezer Church. Senior Pastor Williams transitioned in the spring of 1931, and that fall, King Sr. took the role, where he would in time raise the attendance from 600 to several thousand. In 1934, the church sent King Sr. on a multinational trip, including to Berlin for the meeting pertaining to the Congress of the Baptist World Alliance, BWA. He also visited sites in Germany associated with the Reformation leader, Martin Luther. While there, King Sr. and the BWA delegates witnessed the rise of Nazism. In reaction, the BWA issued a resolution stating, quote, "This Congress deplores and condemns as a violation of the law of God, the Heavenly Father, all racial animosity and every form of oppression or unfair discrimination toward the Jews, toward colored people, or toward subject races in any part of the world," end quote. On returning home in August 1934, King Sr. changed his name to Martin Luther King and his 5-year-old son's name to Martin Luther King Jr.
So boom, right there. First of all, let's address African Irish. What country is Africa? Can somebody help me out, please? What country is Africa?
Please, anyone in the chat, please help us.
Like, where is that? Because most of the time when people want to, say what their, nationality is, like when Barack Obama, he said he's the first Kenyan American to become president. He said Kenyan, because Kenya would be, politically speaking, a jurisdiction pertaining to a said country. Kenyan would be the country, American would be the continent. See, they didn't say Irish African.
So did.
And again, Wikipedia is very opinion-based because anybody can post or edit. So we take it with a grain of salt. However, you're going to see the reason why we're going over this because we have some things astrologically we're about to go over also. So let us then check out his charts, man. Let's do it. Let's check out the charts, actually. And
let's take them to the charts.
Take them to the charts. Take them to the charts.
Let's go to the charts. Dun, dun. Here's Astro Go.
Yeah, no, right? All right, I yield. I'm going to do some posting in the background and I'll wait to let my tongue and go on some things.
I'm good. All right. We're looking here. Because, they try to battle against the sun, moon, and rising, the sun, five, and Holy Ghost. So he's got a Taurus ascendant. He's got a Capricorn sun and a Pisces moon. And as Bro pointed out earlier, those are all sextiles. That's sextiling. Look, sun to the moon, moon to Taurus. So they're all in growth opportunities here. So with that sun being in the 9th house, which we know 9th house is like the sun's strong spot. It's foreign wisdom, so it's status, career, coming from teaching foreign things, right? And what's interesting is like Capricorn Sun, 25 degrees, that's a 7. Being finally exposited by Saturn and the 8th in Sagittarius. So yeah, it was definitely here to relate something foreign, a foundation down, whether that foundation was true or not, right? But it was linked to his destiny to bring a sense of values to himself and his family. When you look at that Sun trine, the North Node right there, North Node, right here in the first house in Taurus. So his destiny is value, security, and purpose. The chart ruler is Venus. Venus in the 11th house, exalted in the sign of Pisces. 17 degrees away from exaltation of Venus. And you see Venus in the 11th house, that's universal, wisdom. You think of love. And so it seemed that Martin Luther King definitely had a love for all beings on earth, Midgard, whichever appellation you like to call that, right? 11th house is, friends and social network, hopes and wishes. So, I have a dream that is very Venusian and Pisces in the 11th. And to also communicate that, which a semi-sextile with that Venus and Mercury. Mercury's right here in the 10th in Aquarius. So that's a career of, as you see, public speaker, they would say, but we're really talking statutory here. But a Mercury in Aquarius in the 10th house, that's, a very powerful placement. You say 11 degrees, when you think of like intuition, right? And an Aquarian degree. So definitely liberating. Read. The speaker, a career. I don't know, bro. I'm gonna finish this apple real quick. It's juicy over here.
Like, I'm going to get these victuals in, right? Okay, so just looking at the chart natally, right? Some things that stood out to me, because I'm thinking solar arc direction was one of the things. So I'm looking at Pluto, and I'm looking to not only am I looking at Pluto, I'm also looking to, and it's funny too, because even though we were looking at the angles, and I was like, hey man, it's about 11 years, he was about 11 years old, a little past 11 years old, man, of a sudden change there, right? And when we go and look at his early life, you'll see what we were looking at 11. However, we did also hypothetically look at some possible rectifications. We looked at, because the Rodin data is only a Rodin data on this time here. It's based on memory. It's not technically a Rodin data. However, it's a Rodin data. And Rodin data just really, Rodin rating actually, just really pertains to the accuracy for the time. And so what I gathered was like, hey, bro, let's kind of move the ascendant here. We got about, I think, 11:52 anti-meridian. So we went 8 minutes before, and then we went about 5 minutes and 40 seconds after 12 noon also, to kind of just look at some things pertaining to his life at 12. So we analyzed, him getting the so-called name change, which was interesting with the name change, because I was thinking as I was just speaking with my bros, I'm like, okay, the name, when you look at the etymology for the word, for the term name, right? It's a word. So that's very mercurial, right? For that. And the next thing it says that people or things. So I was like, okay, a person or thing. So let's just look at people. The people is the moon. So now I was like, okay, Mercury, moon. And then denoted, right? So a denotation is telling you specifically what something is. Therefore, it grants a limitation to be anything else. That's very Saturnian in my analysis, right? And I mean, my bros, not yet, at least, have not, disagreed. However, only shared their wisdoms pertaining to that. So with me looking at that, I was just thinking, like, you go back to the chart. I was like, okay, if that happened around 5, okay, let's look at what, his chart looked like with placing Chiron just about, 5 degrees away. and just looking at that. But usually when I'm doing solar arc direction, you know, our part of our protocol and practice, you know, we kind of just look to, you know, Pluto and Neptune. And so I'm pretty sure some things were very transformative in his life. Of course, at 32, we saw a lot of that. Like around the time he was about 31, 32, 33 years old, there's a lot of things that were probably transformational for him. However, me looking at Pluto, alrighty, and specifically looking at Pluto, and we said about 11 years and 24 days old, there was something that was transformative in his life. So Brother Sean goes back to the Wikipedia. You guys will see, I think it's maybe the end of the first or second paragraph when it's talking about his early life. You'll see that he had entered some school, some laboratory school near the Georgia State Republic. However, just look at some basic things here, right? Can you bring the terms up, bro, on the wheel for this, so we can just see what it's looking like with terms? To just kind of point out a few things, we know that Venus is on its own terms. Venus is the most powerful planet in Martin Luther King's chart here, right? It has a plus 14 as far as the essential dignities are concerned. Coming in a close second, well, not really that close, but I think it was Jupiter that was next, if I'm not mistaken. However, we were looking at the fact that Mercury and Venus are really doing some things there, where I think Mercury is on Venus's terms while it's in Aquarius. Venus is also the chart ruler. However, Mercury is the chart master. So it really also speaks to his second house cusp being in Gemini, which is why he's known for his quote unquote valued speeches, value Venus, speeches Mercury. So with looking at that, it just really kind of made me go, oh, okay, so his Mercury is there on Venus terms. What's the conditions of Venus? Well, Venus is literally at a plus 14. Venus is in its exaltation. It's in mutual reception to, by rulership, mutual reception to Jupiter, because Jupiter is clearly in Taurus, right? So Jupiter's in Taurus. And like I said, Venus is exalted. It's in its own terms, right? It's in its own triplicity, I think that was also, or was that face? Even though I know it just equaled up to 14, right? You got your 5, your 4, your 3, and your 2. So I was thinking like, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. So now when you look to Venusian things, i.e. the way he does things and his health, interestingly, the cusp for his health is on Saturn terms, right? So even though Venus is ruling overall, not just where he is, how he shares or pours out knowledge or helps to assist in making sudden changes in the platform and the scope for the Negro Black coloreds that are under the hypnosis of Negro Black colored mindset, because Martin Luther King, maybe unknowing to him, was only a agent mason to actually help to destroy the copper tone beings, actually, because he obviously swore the death oath, right, and allowed himself to be one that was murdered. And it's funny, even when we'll go to this clip that Brother Taj shared a bit about Martin Luther King. He said they were going to shoot him in the temple. Interestingly, they hit him in the neck. That's Taurus, throat, neck, all right, is the Taurus part of the body, so to speak, when it comes to just the overall, which means, boom, there it is, Venus again. Interestingly, though, Mars, which would be the shot, the so-called gun, is in his second house, right? Which is ruled by Mercury, and even the second house cusp is in Venus terms. So it's really letting you know to a certain extent why, quote unquote, the neck was chosen, even though if you kind of look to its 8th house cusp, even that is on Venus terms. And a lot of people associate the 8th house with death.
Jesus
and then again,
Christ.
Yeah, and then again, and you see Venus and Jupiter are on mutual terms by rule. I mean, they have a mutuality by rulership. Venus is in the sign that Jupiter rules. Jupiter's in the sign that Venus rules. So,
and to add to that, your wisdom, that Jupiter and Neptune's trine. And the 12th and 5th, that Jupiter and Neptune is trine. So when it comes to like the faith and expansion or just the illusions and truth, it's in harmony. But was that harmony used for higher purposes, or was it used for other tactics, which for those that study have seen, those that know the true side of it, because I mean, Jupiter in the 12th, that's, religion studying, but Neptune and Virgo, it's very organized as well, like organized value. So a lot of secrecy and truth behind that. Like when I see that, and I'm saying it because, I shared some picture with my bros when I was in the 5th grade and I had won an essay contest pertaining to Martin Luther King. I have a dream. So now just to be under that hypnosis of these things of what they said and saw, and to now be older and start to study and really just see things different from what I was trained and just believed to think. And you really start seeing things a lot, not, to talk down. We're not throwing shade. Nobody say that, right? We're just bringing the truth. Neptune in the 5th and Virgo, and it's retrograde. Interesting. Let's see. As Neptune, okay, Pluto's retrograde too. And wow, a lot of retrograde planets, except Saturn. Huh. Yeah, yo. No Saturn retrograde, so it's not like an old soul, right? With that, so it's very interesting. Let's see, Neptune's and Mars terms.
Neptune's in Mercury terms.
Oh, is that Mercury right there? Oh, yeah, that is a little blue line. Okay, it's Regulus in Mars terms.
Yeah. Which again, very interesting. I told you Mercury does great in Aquarius. So it's there putting on high the the innovative speaking. Right? So yeah, just to add to your wisdom, with Mars even retrograde as it is appearing now until the 12th, right? When it's stationed direct at, I think that was 3:56 approximately Eastern time when Mars is stationed direct. It's very interesting though, Mars had appeared retrograde when it was at 25 degrees, right? So there was one point in time where this retrograde Mars, by transit actually was conjunct Martin Luther King's retrograde Mars in his natal chart. All right. And we already know that Martin Luther King would have only progressed, once we look at the progress chart, to about 39 years pertaining to age. He was actually about 39 years old, 3 months and 19 days old. He was 39, 3 months and 19 days old. If I got that correct. Going from,
let's see, I'm gonna pull it up.
It was April 4th, 1968, you said?
Yeah, so 39, about 39, 2 months.
February, March, April. Oh yeah. February, March, April.
2 months and about 15,
19 days.
19, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so he was 39, 2 months and 19 days. Which, if you look at those numbers, 3, 9, right? 2 months, 60. 19 days. You get what I'm saying? So that's basically just 1 off of 18. Or if you did the 2 with the 1, that's another 3 with the 9. So there's definitely some mathematics there for you guys to really look at. Interestingly, though, Mercury is just coming off of a retrograde in his secondary progress chart, which I think is interesting because that's 39 years later, which you should see Mercury progress 39 degrees, supposedly. However, we're looking at what actually took place here, right? So that means 39 days after Martin Luther King manifested, which would be in harmony with his 39th year, Mercury's coming off of a retrograde. So there's possibility that right after he was born, Mercury, or during the time he manifested, Mercury was slowing down anyway to prepare for a retrograde. Mercury is usually only retrograde for about 20 to anywhere between 21 and 23 days, so to speak. However, a Mercury retrograde is about 60 days long, 60 to 63 days long, because you have it slowing down to be station retrograde, right? Then you have it apparently being retrograde from anywhere from sometimes 18 to 23 days. And then it's going, it goes from station direct back to the point where it went retrograde, which takes about another 20 days or so. So on average, Mercury, a whole retrograde cycle from slowing down to station retrograde, then to station direct, and then back to, getting out of what is termed its shadow, its retrogradation period, right? That actual range, so to speak, is usually on average about anywhere from 60 to 63 days. So with that being said, we can actually see this here. Interestingly, 911, right? And because 9 degrees, 54 minutes, 11 degrees, 45 minutes natally. I'm looking at that, right? I'm looking at these numbers. I'm not trying to, stretch anything here. However, his secondary progressed moon, however, is in the sign that is reflective of his natal lunar sign, applying 3 degrees, so to speak, to his natal Venus, 12 degrees applying to his natal moon, right? Now, when we look to his 8th house, what's transiting there? Well, Saturn's only 3 degrees off from where it was. And to be exact, 3 degrees, 33 minutes. Look at that, 333. All righty. Galactic center is where his natal Saturn is conjunct. So I really think that there was something there with Martin Luther King. With the right guidance, he probably would have been a really great astrologer. And actually, he probably was an astrologer. And I think this is where eventually we'll segue into, him, him being to the mountaintop, where he been to the mountaintop. That's a great seal. It's a great seal pyramid. And he's seen the promised land. That's Morocco. If you want to speak on it directly like that. However, it's also the mind and the body. Been to the mountaintop, that means you activated your pineal gland. And you've seen the promised land. In other words, you know who you are. You have a nationality in your card. Nationality card in your pocket. Pardon me. You have a nationality card in your pocket. Or you have nationality on a card in your pocket. Let me say that. So maybe even the I have a dream speech was like, I want to tell you something, but I can't. So let me do it in terms of having a dream. Just like when comedians want to tell you something that's really serious, but they don't want to come off preachy. So they do it in the form of comedy. They do activism in the form of comedy. Interestingly, Mars, this is, man, not only is he having a Mercury return, he's having a Mars return the day that he transitioned, the day he was assassinated. He's having a Jupiter return also. Like, I just want to point these things out. I'm talking about by progression, right? So then when we do look at the transits, which is the third wheel here, so forgive me if I've confused anyone of what my, soapboxing, my pontificating upon my soapboxing was about. We really look at the transits pertaining to the day, right? So you see a secondary progress chart is for April 4th, 1968, when that event took place, and as well as the transit for that also, right? we really pay very close attention, right? Jupiter, alrighty, progressed is, because you got to think, by this time, this is his third Jupiter return just 3 years after. Because Jupiter makes its 360 return every 12 years.
That's long.
Jupiter in the 12th is ruling his 8th house. The galactic center is the only thing that's consistent. In his chart. Then looking to his Venus, because that's his ascendant in 6th house. Ruler, natally Pisces, by transit Pisces. So this is after a Venus return, about 1 degree, 46 minutes prior to where Venus is at an exaltation degree.
Jesus, episode, you're Christ.
Yeah, I know, right? It's really tough to kind of look at just a little bit, not too much, right? This is his second North Node return that's taking place. Because the North Node goes, the lunar nodes are 360 every 18 to 18 and a half years. Sometimes 19 years. That's when you have your nodal return. So there's a lot of returns that are taking place here. However, on this day, transiting his 12th house, Saturn's in its joy. Almost at a trine with his natal Saturn. Interestingly,
solar minutes away from a Kazemi too.
Say that again.
I said 2 minutes away from a solar Kazemi. With you got both the quote unquote malefics in his transit his natal 12th, Mars and Saturn.
Oh, Saturn's definitely Kazemi. It's within that 17-minute portion. Saturn's definitely Kazemi, but you are correct. You definitely are correct.
Mars, Saturn, and Mars. And that's Mars is conjunct that natal Chiron. Interesting.
And the fact that his secondary progressed to midheaven is literally 18 minutes off of Fomalhaut on that day. So it makes me think, was he shot from the south? Or was he standing in the south? Even though it was on a balcony, he's gripping a banister, standing next to someone who doesn't have a necktie on. He's the only one with a necktie on, because that was the mark. That was the way that they could tell. All the other Masonic brothers, including one who was instrumental in setting him up, Jesse Jackson, was there next to him. No necktie on. That transiting Mars is conjunct his secondary progressed Chiron, which is conjunct his natal Chiron, just off of it by 30 minutes, a half a degree. So what we're actually seeing here, to be completely upfront, actually, when you look and analyze where his natal is to his secondary progressive transits, one could actually see that, let's just think about it. What's happening in the Brotherhood region, because it was his own brothers that, knew what it was. They knew the hit was coming. However, the marksman, the hitman, had to know. So everybody got the memo to not wear a necktie except Martin Luther King. So the flashing neon arrow pointing to who to shoot was denoted by him being the only one wearing a necktie at that event that day. And he saw it coming. Right? Interestingly, the transiting ascendant is the sign pertaining to Venus also, like his natal ascendant. His secondary progressed ascendant is on Saturn degree, according to degree theory. So now let's look at the natal Saturn, the secondary progressed Saturn, and transiting Saturn. And what I can actually say what's going on there is the fact that Jupiter Jupiter is man, that is heavy. Jupiter and Saturn really play a major role in this. So even though he was doing what he was doing and expanding the values pertaining to how he wanted to share things with the people, so to speak, the limitation actually came in the fact that he knew what he wanted to say. However, the joy in bringing that forth, and really Saturn almost being 120 degrees, transiting Saturn from his natal Saturn, as well as secondary progressed Saturn, there was an occultation, so to speak. And an occultation would really be like the moon blocking out a planet. But in this case, it would be, for me, the sun. You cannot see Saturn this time of the year. Four degrees away from the sun's exaltation, where the North Node is 18 minutes off the bat. So at high noon, so to speak, because the sun's in Aries, not necessarily, in where the midheaven is, even though high noon is where his progressed sun is, within the 10th house, progressed, even though it's in his 11th house natal, and within the 6th house, the progressed sun would be in the 6th house transit, technically, if we go by whole sign. Right? So what I would really analyze here in terms of what we're looking at with Martin Luther King, just to point out a few things, because we're about to go deeper into it. We're going to have the Exalted Cyclops read portions pertaining to that. However, I think this is the part where we need to play Brother Taj's portion. What do you think? Are we in agreement?
Oh, yeah.
All righty.
So I'm gonna yield that screen share for you.
Yeah, because we'll definitely come back to that. We definitely will come back to that. Now the Exalted Cyclops is invisible. I'm kidding.
Like I was earlier.
Nah, I see you, bro. I can see in your mirror, bro, what you were doing. I see the mirror in the background, bro. So I was like, oh shit, bro, the Exalted Cyclops he's disappeared now too. Abracadabra appear, bro. No, it's all good. I'm thinking, right?
We just ninth level Celestine prophecy in it.
What'd you say?
I said we just ninth level Celestine prophecy in it.
Yeah, I know, right? However, let me screen share this, right? And let's just do this real quick. And then Brother Corey can read the early life portion. And then we can speak on why I was looking at Martin Luther King's chart natally. We can go back to the natal chart. But I just wanted to point out some things. I know some astrologers are going to be looking at this or whatever. And they're going to be like, whoa, or whatever, or whatever their opinions are. I really don't give a shit, honestly, unless they're really positive. And even then it's like, yay, thank you for being kind. I'm going to play this video, and then Brother Corey can read the early life portion on Wikipedia, and we can see what happened to Martin Luther King around 11 years old and 12 years old, pertaining to that Pluto solar arc in his 4th house cusp. Well, both the 4th and the 10th house cusp at that moment, because I was like, yo, something really transformative happened when it came to the status pertaining to him and his mother, right? Or his father. But if I'm not mistaken, when we read that Wikipedia, it also said that, I could have sworn I saw it said his mother transitioned when he was 12 too, not just his grandmother. We will go back because it said that Jenny Celeste or something like that transitioned in 1941, and that didn't look like grandmother. That looked like mother. It looked like he was only with his father by the time he was 12. That's what it looks like. But I don't know. We'll see in a second. So let me screen share. What'd you say?
You go check them real quick.
What?
No, but I was.
You got some. Oh, okay, brother Sean.
Yeah, you got some.
Your beard, bro. Your beard is delicious too.
Oh, sorry.
Your beard's like yum. We want some.
I want to snack with you too.
I want to snack with you too. How come the mouth only gets to taste it? The beard's like, yes, we got to taste it too. Okay, let's go here. So this is Brother Taj Tariq Bey, right? Moorish heritage in the Americas. Very old video, actually, from a very long time ago. I'm not really promoting the reporters or the videographers for this, as much as I want you guys to pay attention to what Brother Taj says here within these next 2 minutes or so. I yield. Pay very close attention to what he says, because we're talking about specifically Martin Luther King Jr.
Can't deport you. That's the truth. You know, and the real ugly thing about this stuff is that your leader guys know this stuff. That's why Martin, who was a 32-degree Mason, said that y'all refugees in your own land. Then he talked about your Great Seal Pyramid, because he's a 33-degree Mason. He says, I've been to the mountaintop. And I've seen the promised land. I might not get there with you, but we as a people will make it to the promised land. He's talking about the concept of the Great Seal, but you can't talk about the Don because you're done. That's why it's supposed to be for the temple of Solomon. Although they hit him in his neck, they was aiming for the temple as Masonic assassination. Yeah, he was assassinated. Yeah, because he was start talking against the Pope's army. You know, with that Vietnam thing, he started talking about the Pope's army. And when they smacked him upside the head with that brick when they was marching across that bridge, he said something really wrong with these people. And he started getting a little bit more radical. And that wasn't good, because he was supposed to be an overseer, because he had an assignment to interject in all of the so-called organizations, particularly like the Panthers, those who were doing positive things, and take the credit. Just like the breakfast stuff, that was with the Panthers, not him. The March on Washington, that was the Pampers, not him. He was interjected, but he got frustrated at a while and started telling the truth, because he's 33-degree Mason, but you can't give no signals that you're getting ready to break the seal, step on the Roman seal, and you go on. Do you understand? And same thing with Kennedy. When Kennedy started bringing the Gold Act in, that gold, they talking about gold and silver that belonged to you, because remember, the Christians came here to steal our gold and silver. That's their whole mission. We keep forgetting real history. That's why they bumped him off. Do you understand what I'm saying? For trying to bring the gold back in. But anyway.
So, man, that is a hot 2 minutes, bro. Jesus Christ. That is a hot 2 minutes, bro. So, Brother Sean, I yield the floor to you to bring up that portion of the early life, and then the exalted Cyclops can read that for our beloveds that's joining us. Islam. Oh, you're muted, Brother Sean.
I was saying Islam. I was trying to get back to where I could screen share, but here we go.
Islam.
Desktop. Boom. Now I'm gonna hit that. Hold on, it's in the way. Nah.
So look, real quick before you move that, right? Didn't it say something? Okay, until Jenny's death in 1941. Am I okay? Okay, so hold on. Who's Jenny? Who's Jenny? Is that King Senior's mom? You know which one it is? Okay, that's King Senior's mom. Is that true? Hold on. Okay, Michael and Alberta is Junior's mom and dad, right? All righty. Williams, Murray, Jeannie, Celeste, right? All righty. All right, so that might be his grandmother, maybe. Okay. All right, I yield. Go ahead, I yield. So you on to the early childhood. I yield.
This early childhood. At his childhood home, King and his two siblings would read aloud the Bible as instructed by their father. After dinners there, King's grandmother, Jenny, who he affectionately referred to as quote unquote mama, would tell lively stories from the Bible to her grandchildren. King's father would regularly use whippings to discipline his children. At times, King Sr. would also have his children whip each other. King's father later remarked, quote unquote, King was the most popular child King was the most peculiar, child whenever you whipped him. He'd stand there and the tears would run down and he'd never cry. Once when King witnessed his brother, A.D., emotionally upset his sister, Christine, he took a telephone and knocked out A.D. with it. When he and his brother were playing at their home, A.D. slid from a banister and hit into their grandmother, Jenny, causing her to fall unresponsive. King, believing her dead, blamed himself and attempted suicide by jumping from a second-story window. Upon hearing that his grandmother was alive, King rose and left the ground where he had fallen. Pardon me. King became friends with a white boy, colored.
White boy.
King became friends with an Albion son whose father owned a business across the street from his family home. In September 1935, when the boys were about 6 years old, they started school. King had attended a school for, unconscious Moorish children termed Black, Young Street Elementary School, while his close playmate went to a separate school for Albion children only. Soon afterwards, the parents of the Albion boy stopped allowing King to play with their son, stating to him, quote unquote, we are white and you are colored, end quote. When King relayed the happenings to his parents, they had a long discussion with him about the history pertaining to slavery and racism in America.
They lied to him. They should have said, you're a Moor and we were overthrown. Anyway, go ahead, I yell.
Upon learning of the hatred, violence, and oppression that unconscious Moorish people classified and branded as Black people had faced in the U.S. Unum Sanctum operations, King would later state that he was, quote unquote, determined to hate every white person. His parents instructed him that it was his Christian duty to love everyone.
And we already know he could never be Christian. Anybody that's copper tone could never be Christian. Ever.
Christian in the contemporary Christian in a contemporary sense, correct? Because what's deemed Christianity isn't even really Christianity, it's Constantinianism, right?
Correct. So, the only way to be a Christian is if you activated that pineal gland. Activated your Krishna degree. That's what really it would be. However, and being a Constantinian, you could never be that. You could never be that, ever.
No, you can't activate the Christ of greed being a Constantinian. I totally agree with
Islam.
that.
That's
right.
just impossible.
King witnessed his father. Yeah, it's definitely it's an oxymoron. King witnessed his father stand up against segregation and various forms of discrimination. Once, when stopped by a policy enforcer who referred to King Sr. as quote unquote boy, King's father responded sharply that King was a boy, but he was a man. When King's father took him into a shoe store in downtown Atlanta, the clerk told them they needed to sit in the back. King's father refused, stating, quote, "We'll either buy shoes sitting here or we won't buy any shoes at all," end quote. Before taking King and leaving the store, he told King afterwards, quote, "I don't care how long I have to live with this system, I will never accept it," end quote. In 1936, King's father led hundreds of African Americans, quote unquote, in a civil rights march to the city hall in Atlanta. All right. To protest voting rights discrimination.
So he led a bunch of unconscious Moors calling themselves, because it's funny because they use the term African American in a reference to 1936, and Jesse Jackson didn't coin that term till the 80s.
I love that you like. Yeah. I wasn't going to go there because I guess that wasn't the main subject matter, but it's always like there for concept correction, because why even everything else in that I've read was black, but now all of a sudden they're African American. Like, stop it. You know what I mean? It's all lies. Anyway.
That's why I said Wikipedia is very opinionated. I yield.
Indeed. And as you said, the term African American wasn't even coined then. So, you know.
Right, exactly. That's a violation in literary law. It's a violation.
African civil rights. Okay. In a civil rights march to the city hall in Atlanta. And that's a lie too, because they can't be in Atlanta, but that's a whole nother jurisprudence conversation. To protest voting rights discrimination. King later remarked that King Sr. was a quote unquote a real father to him. I don't know, but it's going to be a fake father, whatever. That's his opinion. That's his quote. Like, what? King memorized and sang hymns and stated verses from the Bible by the time he was 5 years old. Over the next year, he began to go to church events with his mother and sing hymns while she played piano. His favorite hymn to sing was, quote, "I want to be more and more like I am." End quote.
Because Jesus physically is the I am identity. So yeah. It's funny because look, he said by the time he was 5, and this is after his father changes his name from Michael to Martin Luther. So around the same time. I yield. What'd you say, bro? What you about to say going forward?
It's just that's too funny. The more and I am like, all right. Anyway, I want to be more and more like Jesus Christ, okay, quote unquote. He moved attendees with his singing. Woo, that boy has soul, right? Boy has some son. Michael, right? Has some King later became a member of the junior choir in his church. King enjoyed opera and played the piano. As he grew up, King garnered a large vocabulary from reading dictionaries and consistently used his expanded lexicon. He got into physical altercations with boys in his neighborhood, but oftentimes used his knowledge of words to stymie fights. King showed a lack of interest in grammar and spelling, a trait that he carried throughout his life. In 1939, King sang as a member of his church choir in quote unquote slave costume. for the all-white audience at the Atlanta premiere of the film Gone with the Wind. In September 1940, at age 11, King was enrolled at the Atlanta University Laboratory School for the 7th grade. While there, King took violin and piano lessons and showed keen interest in his history and English classes.
Just to add to your wisdom right there, that's where I was like, yeah, that solar arcing of the 4th and 10th house of Pluto in his natal chart for when he was about 11. I said about 11 years old and 24 days, there was something transformative. And then Brother Sean brought up the Wikipedia and read that part, which you just read, Brother Corey. And I was like, wow, there it goes. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know,
the whole singing in Slavic costume I was referring to.
Yeah, well, no, the whole enrolling at University Laboratory School, right?
Yes.
I thought that was very transformative. And then, like, what you're about to read now is about his grandmama now. I yield.
On May 18, 1941, when King had sneaked away from studying at home to watch, that seems like improper grammar, but whatever, to watch a parade, King was informed that something had happened to his maternal grandmother. Got you. Upon returning home, he found out that she had suffered a heart attack and died while being transported to a hospital. He took the death very hard and believed that his deception of going to see the parade may have been responsible for God taking her. King jumped out of a second-story window at his home, but again survived an attempt to kill himself. Ooh, King was a pretty emotionally volatile.
That's what I was saying. Like, this dude, like, I don't want to be here. And the second floor is pretty consistent in his biography for some reason. But go ahead. I'm just saying. It's very consistent because remember, his mom and dad stayed in his grandparents' Victoria house on the second floor. I yield.
Indeed. All right. Second story. His father instructed him in his bedroom that King should not blame himself for her death, and that she had been called home to call upon to God as part of to call upon's plan that could not be changed. King struggled with this and could not fully believe that his parents knew where his grandmother had gone. Shortly thereafter, King's father decided to move the family to a 2-story brick home on a hill that overlooked downtown Atlanta. It sounded like maybe he should have invested in rancher-style homes to keep the
trailer. I ain't got enough of the 2 stories yet.
That's what I said. Its second floor seems pretty consistent, even down to him being a Mason, where the meetings happen on the second floor. Right? I yield.
You want me to move on to adolescence? That's the end of early childhood.
Okay, I think we're pretty good right there, honestly. And the people can kind of go in more. I think we can go back to the chart at this point in time, even though we could probably see some things that happened around then. Now, let's just go back to the chart for right now, right? If we look singularly at one chart, right? Let's think of zodiacal releasing at this moment. Okay, his spirit, he's part of spirit and part of fortune. We see fortune is clearly in Cancer. So he starts out in a 25-year Cancer period, right? In terms of, we put it in terms of his career, right? Fortune in terms of his career, 25 years. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Where's Spirit? Spirit is clearly interesting. It's in Pisces. Freaking wow. So those things are trine by sign, right? So it would just let me know, for his, 25 years there, boom. Then the next 19 years. So, wow, bro. I don't even think he got to really make it. Let's see. Let's look at, because, when we're looking at the zodiacal releasing for Spirit, we're talking about his health. So maybe we can look at his career because it's 12 years there, which makes sense because by the time he's 12, and right even before.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Yeah, right before he was started that university, wasn't he? He went to that university.
Correct. It's building up to that peak, which then he has a peak moment for his career in terms of fortune, right? For because we're comparing it as fortune and spirit. So we're now doing a zodiacal releasing for spirit. Now, after those 12 years, he goes into a 15-year Aries period, which would be a peak period. So that's probably where we would find that in that whole adolescent section. We're going to be seeing something about when he was 13 and was starting off there. I didn't even read that portion. However, this is what I do know. Uranus is there. Uranus deals with 11th house type things in assistance to Saturn. So seeing where Uranus and Saturn is in his chart, they're technically trine by sign, even though they're just 98 degrees apart, technically, roughly 98 degrees apart. So let me make sure I got that correct. Yeah, about 98 degrees apart. So with that, it kind of just takes me to I want to say the fourth harmonic, even more closer to the fourth harmonic, which would be 90 degrees apiece. But if we look at really the seventh harmonic, because the seventh harmonic would have it at about 102. So that's a little closer to 98. And it just lets me know that there was probably some creativity with agitation that could have been experienced, but he probably knew what he wanted to do career-wise. Interestingly, let's see the zodiacal releasing for spirit.
Beautifully zodiacal.
It's long. So
what are you going for? Spirit or you want fortune?
Let's look. Well, I know he didn't make it that far with fortune, because 25 plus 19 would be 48 years old. He didn't make it there.
NDR, yeah.
Pardon me, 45 plus 19 is 44 years old. Forgive me. He didn't make it there. He didn't make it to 44. He was gone 5 years prior. Do you know what I mean? Even though, hold on, let me bring that back. He did make it. So let's say by the time fortune hit his 19-year Leo period, by the time he was 14 years into that 19-year period, he's off the scene. Let me correct myself. All right. However, if we look at spirit, we're going to see a peak period for spirit. Right? I mean, it's got a plus sign there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's got a freaking plus sign. Now, this is what I kind of want to look at. It's funny because it has that, look where it's at, bro. His peak period is in harmony, bro, with that Pluto solar arc. Because it's saying 11 years and 11.8 years and 0.8 years. If we break 365 and 1/4 days into tenths, that would be 36.5 times 8. So what's 36.5 times 8? I know 36 times 8 would be basically 240 plus 40. So we're looking at about 280 days, roughly.
292. Right? 292.
Okay. So I was close. 12 days off, right? So he's basically not quite 12 yet, right? However, he does go from about 0 from time he manifested, because spirit's in Pisces. All righty. So what we can look at now is Mars being the significator for that. Mm-hmm. Where's his natal Mars? We already know. Retrograde in Gemini at 21 degrees. Mm-hmm. So his natal Mars is in correction mode. All peak periods no loosing of the bonds. Is that not interesting? You know why? Because there's nothing that's 17 years long that he experienced except fortune. That's where the loosing of the bonds are going to happen. Because he started out with a 25-year. What'd you say?
Go ahead, continue your stream.
Because he started in a 25-year period for fortune, and then he made it only 14 years, pardon me, into his Leo period. I yield, Brother Corey.
Correct.
Yeah, they didn't want him to loosen those bonds. They didn't want him to evolve to that point. They didn't want to see that.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't have did it until he wouldn't have had a loosening of the bond in his to his career until he hit 17 years after July 16th, 1963, which would have been 1980. If he'd have made it to 1980, that would have been something that would have been a foreshadow to that Geminian period, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because you already know after 17 years, it would have gotten back to Gemini, but it would have been Sagittarius on that loosening of the bond. What you were about to say though, bro?
No, I wasn't about to say anything else.
Islam. So of course, as he's coming into this, and he's got a peak period on all 4 levels, right? About 15 months in, I'm pretty sure it's about 15. Hold on, let me double check. Because, on the month period, you're going from 15 years because it's a Mars-based sign. Because, a Jupiter base is 12, 15 for Mars, 8 for anything Venusian, which he didn't even make it there. He didn't even make it to Taurus, zodiacal releasing for his spirit, for a lot of spirit. But just analyzing his career, interestingly, we're looking at peak period. So, okay, no, that does make sense. So 15 months, then approximately 8 months, then approximately 20 months. Okay, yeah, that all makes sense. And then he goes into a roughly 25 month Cancer period, which makes sense that would be a freaking peak right there, technically. Because now on the level 2, it would be conjunct his spirit. So now we would have to check, but we can't. But we can actually. This would be what's hilarious about that peak period there on level 2 for him, because at this point he should be about, if I'm not mistaken, 15 years old. For that level 2 peak period, May 26, 1944. Should definitely be about 15 years old. Right?
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, 15.4. All right. So with even looking at that, we can see what happened there, because what I'm going to just kind of predict without even looking at it, even though we can go and check the record, and let's see if Wikipedia says something to analyze something that comes to career, right? I wonder, because on level 3, he is going to have a loosening of the bond on level 3 when he's about 16 years old. All righty. And the foreshadow to that is happening on that peak period. So let's go and see what Brother Corey reads, or Brother Sean, either one of you guys can read, in that adolescent period on, because like I said, I hadn't read it, just to be completely honest. You know what I mean? If you don't believe it, fuck you. I'm just going to out there. Like serious, because I didn't read the shit. So let's see. It goes from 13. I just want to see if it says anything about 1944, 1945. I'm curious. I really am, to see what it would say, because I'm going to say that he did something. Let me look away from it. I think something happened to the point where it was something dealing not only with his health or the peak period there, but maybe he took up something that dealt with, I don't know, either doing something with children, or he assisted his mother with something, or he dealt with something that was really transformative that was with it, dealing with his mother, or he did some type of memorial for the grandmother. We'll see. Let's just see what happens. Because it should be.
No, you said.
What'd you say?
Said in like 4. Said by 1944.
Wow, because I do see that last paragraph. Since you just said that, I see April 3rd, and that's after March 26th, where that peak period happened. But go and read, do your thing, read what you want, you know what I mean? But I can't wait till you get to that 4th paragraph, because I want to know what happened. Because I see it, because we already know, man. Like,
that's when he joined the order. That's when he joined. That's when they started grooming him for the Masonic orders, because he joined. Yeah, whatever. We'll get there. All right. Adolescence. Okay. In his adolescence years, he initially felt resentment against Albions due to the racial humiliation, quote unquote, that he, his family, and his neighbors often had to endure in the segregated South. In 1942, when King was 13 years old, he became the youngest assistant manager of a newspaper delivery station for the Atlanta Journal. The press is our greatest weapon, right? He was an assistant manager to a newspaper delivery station. Pardon me. That year, King skipped the 9th grade and was enrolled in Booker T. Washington High School, where he maintained a B+ average. The high school was the only one in the city for African American students.
There were no African Americans in the 40s. Stop that shit, Wikipedia. No, stop. Okay, I yield.
That's it. That's wild to even think of, though, like the way Atlanta is portrayed now, and to just think that there was only one school for unconscious Moors. That's kind of nuts. It had been formed after local unconscious Moorish leaders going by the designation Black, including King's grandfather, Williams, urged the city government of Atlanta to create it. So they urged the board of directors for the Corporation of Atlanta to
please denationalize us. Please, denationalization, recognize.
Oh, we want to be recognizing your corporation. All right. While King was brought up in a Baptist home, King grew skeptical of some of Christianity's claims as he entered adolescence. He began to question the literalist teachings preached at his father's church.
Boom, right there. Stop, please, bro. Respectfully. That right there is because his father put that Martin Luther designation on him. So now he's protesting like a protestant. I yield.
At the age of 13. So he went through a whole 12 first, and now he's back at the 1. So now he's questioning what he's bearing witness to.
Disputing with the doctors of the law. Let me stop. Go ahead, I yield.
Okay. At the age 13, he denied the body resurrection of Jesus.
Sounds like an astrologer to me.
Yeah, he denied the bodily resurrection pertaining to Jesus during Sunday's school. King said that he found himself unable to identify with the emotional displays and gestures from congregants frequent at his church, and doubted if he would ever attain personal satisfaction from what was being portrayed as religion. He later stated of this point in his life, quote unquote, doubts began to spring forth unrelentingly. So yeah, that's right.
I have a dream that I can't fuck with y'all shaking them tambourines.
I mean, it sounds like he was looking at these motherfuckers like, yo, this motherfucker, whoever this character is, did not just resurrect. There's got to be more to this. Let me pick up a compass and square. And y'all doing this Holy Ghost shaking and passing out shit is not entertaining me anymore. You know what I mean? So in high school, King became known for his public speaking ability with a voice that had grown into an orotund baritone. You see, didn't I bring that up earlier when we was looking at his chart?
That's that Taurus shit, because he got a Taurus ascendant, which deals with the throat, the neck. So yeah, that makes all the sense. And Mercury's in Venus.
Isn't Jupiter in Taurus? Is Jupiter in Taurus?
And Jupiter is in Taurus. Yeah. Yes, you are correct, bro.
So it's like expanding all that energy is the you know what I mean? His orative skills, like people couldn't shake that shit. They're like they wanted to soak it up, right? Because they almost wanted to get drunk off of what he was speaking. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes, I yield, bro. That's an excellent observation. Yes, Islam.
All right, where are we at? Baritone, voice baritone.
Yeah, girl, I'm gonna sing this song.
He proceeded to join the school's debate team. King continued to be most drawn to history and English, and chose English and sociology to be his main subject while at school. King maintained an abundant vocabulary, but he relied on his sister, Christine, to help him with his spelling, while King assisted her with math. It's very interesting that he didn't they say his grammar and all that, and spelling wasn't the best, but he was big on reading dictionaries and all that stuff. That's very interesting. I lost my place. Christine, spelling. They studied in this manner routinely until Christine's graduation from high school. King also developed an interest in fashion, commonly adorning himself in the well-polished patent leather shoes and tweed suits, which gained him the nickname quote unquote Tweed, or quote unquote Tweety, Brother Jag, among his friends. He further grew a liking for flirting with girls and dancing. His brother AD remarked, quote, he kept flitting, let's say flitting? Yeah, he kept flitting from chick to chick, and I decided I couldn't keep up with him, especially since he was crazy about dances and just about the best jitterbug in town, end quote. On April 13, 1944, in his junior year, King gave his first public speech during an oratorical contest. Sponsored by the Improved, Benevolent, and Protective Order of Elks of the World in Dublin, Georgia. In his speech, he stated, quote, Black America still wears chains. The finest Negro is at the mercy of the meanest white man. Even winners of our highest honors face the class color bar, end quote. King was selected as the winner of the contest. On the ride home to Atlanta by bus, he and his teacher were ordered by the driver to stand so that Albion passengers could sit down. The driver of the bus called King a quote unquote black son of a bitch. King initially refused, but complied after his teacher told him that he would be breaking the law if he did not follow the directions of the driver. You see what you get for begging to be part of their corporation? As all the seats were occupied, he and his teacher were forced to stand on the rest of the drive back to Atlanta. Later, King wrote of the incident saying, quote, that night will never leave my memory. It was the angriest I have ever been in my life, end quote.
You know what's funny? Read that. Can you read that first sentence of that fourth paragraph again, bro? I think that's the mark of that peak period on the level 3 period for him. Or because I said he was about 15, right? I said this happened in 44, and that's what Brother Sean showed, right? And then we can go back. Because
there's such a dichotomy.
Go ahead. What'd you say, bro? I yield.
I was gonna say there's such a dichotomy in it because all of this, everything they're talking about, or they chose to present in this Wikipedia pertaining to his adolescence, is this building up of this great orator, right? It's like he was in the, people was hearing his voice, blah, 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 baritone, blah, blah, blah. He joined the debate club or something like that. And then it's like, and then on April 13th, 1944, in his junior year, King gave his first public speech. So this is his first public speech during an oratorical contest sponsored by the Improved, Benevolent, and Protective Order of the Elks of the World.
Wow.
Georgia. That's what I'm saying, bro. So that's when they tagged him. That's when they said, oh shit, look at this little whippersnapper here. Let's give him an award. But at the same time, I mean, they didn't control this, but the dichotomy of the universe was everything he just spoke on. He won this award, and then he turns around, gets on the bus, and got to be called a black son of a bitch, and is scared for his life and scared for breaking the law, for standing up for what he knows is moral, you know, and just. You feel me? So it's like, ugh.
Because his ancestors or those before him, those that he descended from, didn't stick with enforcing what Prophet Noble Drew Ali had brought. Because remember, he manifested 6 months and 5 days before Prophet Noble Drew Ali left off the scene.
Islam.
He manifested January 15th, 1929. Prophet Noble Drew Ali was off the scene. As a matter of fact, let me put it in terms like this. He manifested 3 days before the letter to be read in every meeting.
There you go. 3 days. 3 degrees before the letter to be read in every meeting. Wow.
6 months and 5 days before Prophet Noble Drew Ali veiled his form and left off the scene. I'm going to say it like that. You know, a lot of people are like, well, that's because he died of pneumonia because of the policy enforcers that beat him, blah, 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 blah. However, everybody, see, the thing is, whoever did what, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali or anybody who's a reformer, the people that did that, they are being revisited every generation with problems. So even if you dealt with any sincere Moor and somebody tried to be rude, mean, or make their life a living hell, you have no clue that you're bringing something upon yourself. I'm trying to tell you, you're going to wish you hadn't. You're going to wish that you were kind to those more, because generation after generation after generation, you have to have an issue, a problem, even to the point that initially you won't be able to reproduce. Your legacy won't be carried on, especially those people that have nothing but boys. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying the inheritance is passed through mother. So you have no daughters. You got to think about what is visiting you from your past. Somebody fucked up. That's all I got to say. And you go back and trace the timeline. However, yeah, okay, boom. There's the peak. There's the peak period. Go ahead, Brother Sean. Can you bring up the Zodiacal releasing again?
Hold on, real quick though. I'm gonna just throw this in real quick.
Yes.
Wow. All right. The Improved, Benevolent, Protective Order of the Elks of the World, get this, is, I'm reading it, I'm reading verbatim, is an African American fraternal order modeled on the Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elks. So like, oh my God, like what?
Because they didn't want to be Moorish American. They want to sit there and instead of imitate the prophet, they want to imitate their children, their Albion sons.
They want to imitate their Albion sons and daughters who are in the whose interest is in keeping them in servitude. So it's like, oh gosh, yo. And it says sponsored, but I would strongly, I strongly feel that that 501c8 organization is who actually stamped that award, that oratorical award. You feel me? So like that's probably something he put in his resume or portfolio moving forward in his life, going to school, university, whatever. Like, yeah, I got this oratorical award from the, Improved, Benevolent, and Protective Order of the Elks of the World. I yield.
Islam. So 1 month, 1 moon cycle, and 13 days prior, he wins this oratorical contest. Then he goes and have a peak period, right? So it's all within you know what I mean, the same amount of time respectfully, right? It's leading up to it. And it's funny because on level 2, he would have still been technically, according to part of spirit, in a Gemini level 2 period. Because the peak go ahead.
Nothing but bedazzled fezzes. I yield.
I'm just saying, like, we can actually see these things, you know? And what's funny is that's literally almost 4 years. I mean, November is the 11th month, April is the 4th. So we would take away 7 and would show that is 3 years and 5 months after his part of spirit entered into the 15-year Aries period for that April 13th, 1944 award. All righty. So when we looking at that, and then we go to the level 3 period and see that there's a loosing of the bond along with a peak period, all righty, on November 5th, 1945. Like I said, he's 16 by this time. I'm pretty sure we could see some things. I wonder if since he skipped 9th grade, is he a freshman in college by this time? What does it say for Morehouse?
Go back. I can't see it.
And then 13 days later, on December 18th, he's dealing with something also on a level 4 period. So when is he a freshman? See, look, some more about age 15 and all this shit. That's what I'm telling you, bro. I didn't even read that shit, bro. I'm just now skimming in on the first paragraph. I'm telling you, bro, like, we the best. I'm trying to tell you, man. Seven Hill Star is the best. Why? Because we're Moorish American and we're honoring our ancient foremothers and forefathers because we're enforcing and being our zodiac constitution. If you're not Moorish American, or at least knowing that you're a subject under Moorish law, I don't care how much astrology you know it can do, you're insincere. You must be in order, not in order like the Elks. You just must be in order properly, period. I don't give a fuck what you say. Because all those lodges exist because they're impersonating us in secret.
But you might as well start writing it now. We organized in such and such as First Aboriginal Indigenous Defense Ministry, and
basically, basically.
Bro. Oh my gosh, Morehouse College. During King's junior year in high school, Morehouse College, an all-male, historically unconscious Moor college, that King's father and maternal it makes my heart happy every time I see this black shit. That King's father and maternal grandmother had attended. Time out. Oh, say, my bad.
Maternal grandfather. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about to say. Maternal grandfather had attended. Began accepting high school juniors who passed the school's entrance examination. As World War II was underway, many unconscious Moor colleges students had, excuse me, let me say that again. As World War II was underway, many unconscious Moor college students had been enlisted in war, decreasing the numbers of students at Morehouse College. So the university aimed to increase their student numbers by allowing junior high school students to apply. So was that about the money?
Wow, bro. I didn't even read that, and I could clearly see, like, okay, there's a peak there, and it's dealing with some structure because it was Capricorn. Not only was a peak period, it's a loosing of the bond. So if we looked at the period, the Cancer period prior to that, which is the foreshadow to the loosing of the bond, then we'd be like, oh, okay, all right, we can see what actually was the foreshadow to that. That's why I said, I wonder if he was like a freshman in college. Well, look what happens. Go ahead, I yield.
At age 15, which is still 1944. So, 1944, King passed the entrance examination and was enrolled at the university for the school season that autumn. In the summer before King started his freshman year at Morehouse, he boarded a train with his friend Emmett, quote unquote, Weasel Proctor, and a group of other Morehouse College students to work in Simsbury, Connecticut at the tobacco farm of Coleman Brothers Tobacco, a cigar business. This was King's first trip outside of the segregated South into the integrated North. In a June 1944 letter to his father, King wrote about the difference that struck him between the two parts of the said country. Quote, on our way here, we saw some things I had never anticipated to see. After we passed Washington, there was no discrimination at all. The Albion people here are very painful. No, they were very nice. We go to any place, we go to any place we want to and sit anywhere we want to, end quote. The students worked at the farm to be able to provide for their educational costs at Morehouse College. See, it was about the bread. As the farm had partnered with the college to allot their salaries towards the university's tuition. Wait, what? They was in servitude? Time out. As the farm partnered with the college to allot their salaries towards the university's tuition, housing, and other fees.
Sharecropping sounds like sharecropping to me.
Exactly like sharecropping, bro. What the fuck? On weekdays, King and the other students worked in the fields picking tobacco from 7 a.m. until 5 p.m.
What the fuck they had time to study?
They was happy about this shit too. Enduring temperatures above 100 degrees Fahrenheit to earn roughly 4 U.S. doll hairs per day.
Wow.
On Friday evenings, King and the other students visited downtown Simsbury to get milkshakes and watch movies. And on Saturdays, they would travel to Hartford, Connecticut to see theater performances, shop, and eat in restaurants. On each Sunday, they would go to Hartford to attend church services at a church filled with Albion congregants. King wrote to his parents about the lack of segregation in Connecticut, right? Relaying how he was amazed they could go to, quote, one of the finest restaurants in Hartford, end quote, and that, quote, Negroes and whites go to the same church, end quote.
Hold on, want to interject something. New Haven is where Yale is. Skull and Bones. That's all I wanted to say there. I yield.
Man, every time I hear Connecticut, I think about all that other shit we, have researched about their kidnapping procedures and shit.
Yeah, as far as the children, through the Department of Children and Family Services, which was only instituted for some juvenile detention between a so-called Boys and Girls Club. Yes, it is Connect I Cut.
Correct.
So they're cutting the connections there at Connect I Cut.
Correct. And also, it's just like putting it into so much perspective. Like, this is still a 15-year-old boy. You know what I'm saying? So
yes.
He played freshman football there the summer before his last year at Morehouse. I'm presuming they're still referring to Connecticut. Like, how are you going to go to a whole nother paragraph and say he played freshman football there? The summer before his last year at Morehouse in 1947, the 18-year-old King chose to enter ministry. Throughout his time in college, King studied under the mentorship of its president, Baptist minister Benjamin Mays, who he would later credit with being his quote unquote spiritual mentor. King had concluded that the church offered the most assuring way to answer, quote, an inner urge to serve humanity, end quote. His quote unquote inner urge had begun developing, and he made peace with the Baptist church as he believed he would be a rational quote unquote minister with sermons that were a quote unquote respectful force for ideas, even social protest. Protestant
there's that Martin Luther shit again.
There's that Martin Luther shit again. King graduated from Morehouse with a Bachelor of Arts
No shit, because he was a fucking Venus ascendant. With Venus exalted in Pisces in its own terms. In mutual reception with Jupiter. My apologies. Go ahead. What'd you say, bro?
No, you good. I'm just finishing. I said in 1948, age 19, but what I'm really like tossing around in my mind is just how he went from, that's so Martin Luther, yo, because he went from like at age 13 ready to protest to the extent of I ain't fucking with the church. But then as he continued on, he's like, okay, let me incorporate into the church and try to do good work through the church, but still promote social protests by way of the church. And I honestly, myself personally, I feel like that had a lot to do with being groomed, because look, it says his mentorship of its president. Throughout his time in college, King studied under the mentorship of its president. So Baptist minister Benjamin Mays was the president of Morehouse College.
That's what it sounds like.
That's what I'm saying, which was his quote unquote spiritual mentor. So again, that's what I'm saying, bro. It was like, oh, you a great orator, and you got this award from the improved order of the Elks and shit. And now we're going to groom you because your pop is already Martin Luther. You come from all this church background. So let me show you how to know the truth, but hide it and veil it behind the church shit. That's
somebody else say Reverend Lonnie Wild from Martin? No, I yell.
Leon Lonnie Love.
There we go.
Said, Pam, you were swollen around about your colon. You couldn't get enough of Pam. That was David Allen Greer playing that, right? So yeah, like, bro. And if you can, Brother Sean, can you go back now and finish reading the biography for Martin Luther? Can we look at a little bit more of that? Can you read that, bro? It's
Hold on.
left, right?
You know what just hit me? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. That's really, I am Christ, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. The biography of Martin Luther is right there, bro, to the left of that tab that you're on for Wikipedia, I thought, right? The biography, Reformation, all that. Yeah. So I think we would have left off at, scroll down, bro. Can you read that portion right there?
It's about the second half.
Mm-hmm.
All right. By the second half of the 15th century, the Augustinian order had become divided into two factions, one seeking reform in the direction of the order's original strict rule, the other favoring modifications.
Stop right there. See, again, I didn't even read that shit. Spirit just was like, let's go back to that last, because I saw it behind like the advertisements or whatever was at the bottom of the screen. I'm just like, bruh, I'm pretty sure something else is going to come out. I'm just going with the flow of the field. But go ahead, bro. I yield.
Indeed. The monastery Luther joined in Erfurt was part of the strict observant faction. 2 months after entering the monastery on September 15th, 1505, Luther made his general confession and was admitted into the community as a novice.
Stop. Go back.
Mm-hmm.
Go back a little quick. 1505, 555, 15, 16, 17, 7, 8, 9. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? Yeah, go ahead.
Luther's new monastic life conformed to the commitment that countless men and women had made through the centuries, an existence devoted to an interweaving of daily work and worship. His spotting quarters consisted of an unheated cell furnished only with a table and chair.
Cell, right there, boom. That's some 12th house stuff. You guys have heard, us go over before and say, 12th house, Pisces, Jupiter and Neptune deals with incarceration. Carcer is the Latin. right? Root for incarceration. It doesn't just have to do with someone who is against their will in a correctional facility. Also, monks and nuns are in a cell, not just violating pertaining to the law, not criminals. I yield.
His daily activities were structured around the monastic rule and the observance pertaining to the canonical hours, which began at 2 a.m. In the fall of 1506, he was fully admitted to the order and began to prepare for his ordination to the priesthood. He celebrated his first mass in May 1507 with a great deal of fear and trembling, according to his own recollection. Let's see what else we got for him. Here we go. The Indulgences controversy of Martin Luther. Indulgences and salvation. In the fall of 1517, an ostensibly an iniquitous event quickly made Luther's name a household word in Germany. Irritated by Johann Tetzel, a Dominican friar who was reported to have preached to the faithful that the purchase of a letter of indulgence entailed the forgiveness of sins, Luther drafted a set of propositions for the purpose of conducting an academic debate on indulgences at the university in Wittenberg. He dispatched a copy of the 95 theses to Tetzel's superior, Archbishop Albert of Mainz, along with a request that Albert put a stop to Tetzel's extravagant preaching. He also sent copies to a number of friends. Before long, Albert formally requested that official proceedings be commenced in Rome to ascertain the work's orthodoxy. Meanwhile, it began to be circulated in German, together with some explanatory publications by Luther. Luther clearly intended the 95 Theses to be subservient to the church and the popes, and their overall tone is accordingly searching rather than doctrinaire. Nevertheless, there is a detectable undercurrent of quote-unquote reforming sentiment in the work, expressed in several theses, beginning with the phrase, quote, Christians are to be taught that, end quote, as well as some openly provocative statements.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. Thesis 86, for example, asks, why does not the Pope, whose wealth today is greater than the wealth of the richest Crassus, build the basilica pertaining to St. Peter with his own money rather than with the money of poor believers?
Now, boom, right there. So let's look at what we're doing here. The reason why we're looking at Martin Luther from the 1400s and 1500s, and then looking at Martin Luther King pertaining to the 1900s, what we're seeing is how when you call upon a certain energy on oneself, and that's what I was about to say, bro. Go and bring up Martin Luther's chart.
Yeah, you getting that vibe too. I'm getting that same thing.
Where I'm going with this. Let's fucking look. Let's look at Martin Luther's chart by itself, and then we can put him in Synastry, right? Look, his fucking midheaven, bro, is Taurus.
Wow.
And his midheaven, because we're obviously looking at this. This is equal. You're doing equal from the ascendant. That's the house system you're using, which is fine because it shows that Martin Luther's midheaven and Martin Luther King's ascendant are conjunct. Clearly conjunct. Yeah, let's put them in Synastry. Make Martin Luther King the outer chart. And now let's compare. Oh, this is secondary progress. Yeah, I'll go ahead, do your thing, bro. Do your thing. What'd you say, Brother Corey? I yield.
Nope. All on it. You said what I was saying. That's the secondary progress joint. That's
Islam. All righty. Let's take a looky. Ask your cookie.
Yo, his South Node is on his Martin Luther King. I'm gonna say Michael King to Martin Luther Look at that. His south node is conjunct that sun.
Do you see that shit? Like it's almost like you brought the consciousness of Martin Luther. It almost sounds like body possession.
Yo, for
is
real.
that the ascendant and Chiron conjunct his midheaven?
Yes. So it's almost like, who were you in a past life, Martin Luther King? Well, you might have been Martin Luther. Possibly. Right?
How did Martin Luther transition? That's what I was wondering.
Interesting. Why? Was he decapitated or some shit? That's what you're thinking about?
I'm wondering. Is it something to do with the throat or the head?
Let's
or the
see.
temple? The temple could be the whole body too. Bro.
Oh, first he was excommunicated. Go back up. Go back up. Woo, go back up. First he was excommunicated.
So that's almost, it's so funny. That's almost another form of like decapitation, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, continue, Brother Sean. Go ahead and keep scrubbing that scroll there. Diet of worms. All right. Okay. Okay. He was eating worms for some reason due to excommunication. Cool. Later years. Oh, he was plagued with kidney stones, huh? Interesting. Let's see.
Sure. Let's see.
Oh, you just went back a few?
Just trying to go back to regular Google, but
he transitioned, we know at 8. We need to know why. Put cause of death, maybe, if you could. I mean, we could probably see it. Matter of fact, go back to his chart. Fuck that. Go back to his chart real quick before you even click on that. I want to see if we can see it. Where's his 8th house? Jesus, Monesis.
Pisces.
It's on fucking Pisces, bro. Okay, on Jupiter's terms. Where's Jupiter? In Libra. It's looking like it's on Venus's terms, right?
Yes. Yes.
Where's Venus? Stop it. Stop making me laugh. Please stop making me laugh. Right there, standing guard, right? It's still in the 3rd house before it hits the 4th house cusp, I think. Or
correct.
Or, bro, can you bring up the celestial longitude for the houses, please? I'm almost curious. I want to say that Venus is probably on his 4th house cusp because that's Saturn that's there. So just remember the chart display. Change the chart display. Oh, okay. You can do that too. That's fine. I mean, I can read that also. 4th house is at 12:29. Was that 4 minutes off? Where's Venus? Is Venus 12:25? What was Venus again?
Venus is
12:25, correct.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. So it's in Mercury terms. So Jupiter is in Venus terms. Venus is in Mercury terms. Mercury is in Jupiter terms. So now we see what this is. So now this is what I'm thinking here. What happened to him? I'm thinking either it was something with his lungs. Like, it's funny because an expansion of the lungs would be one thing, but I'm seeing lung collapse possibly. Or it was someone who he thought he could trust, maybe was brotherly like, and it's probably the same thing, some brotherhood arrangement of some sort, especially after being excommunicated. Let's say, okay, after excommunication, what could it have been? Okay, let's go see what it says cause of death for Martin Luther. Let's see. Anybody else want to say anything? Like, it doesn't just have to be what I say. Like, it does not ever. No, we're just gonna ride with it. That's fine with me. Okay. Man, his part of fortune. And hold on, why is his part of fortune? Is his sun and the ascendant conjunct? Was he manifested right before sunrise? His sun is in the 4th house. That is interesting as fuck. Hold on, let me really think about that. That is very interesting that the moon in the part of fortune is that freaking close, but I won't go there. I'll yield. I really yield on that. I think that's very interesting, actually. Okay, no, I get it. I get it now. The same distance that the sun and moon are is the distance from the ascendant and the part of fortune. However, it's like, because that's what you'll see. You'll see this, the same distance between the sun and the moon is going to be the same distance between the part of fortune and the ascendant. For them to be literally Cazimi in theory, even though Cazimi means within the heart of the sun, but they're literally 8 minutes apart. I think that's highly interesting that part of fortune is there. And it's in the 9th house, which means, again, and even when we looked at when Martin Luther King went through that zodiacal releasing on the level 3 period for Capricorn, if I'm not mistaken, that's his 9th house. So it makes sense for some honors pertaining to higher learning to happen or stuff like that. Okay, let's look at the Wikipedia for Martin Luther's cause of death. Like I said, I'm thinking it has to do something with the lungs. Let's see what they say. Hold on, it's right there. It's right fucking there. It's literally right there. We even said it. It says cardiac infarct. Oh, it says infarct. Forgive me. Is assumed to be, huh? I'm still going with lungs here.
That's right here.
Yeah, I'm still going with lungs. Go ahead, click what you want, bro.
Looks like a lot of hearsay on these sites. A lot of hearsay.
Yeah. Because in that Britannica joint, it said that he suffered from kidney stones also, which would kind of make sense being on, I think something was on Venus terms, I think it was. So look at it, which is interesting. Okay. Oh, look, there's that Rosicrucian artwork there, Rosie Cross. All right.
The Rosie Cross. Synodically, openly, knowingly cycle through elemental.
The elemental stages.
See what Wikipedia says. I'm curious, just real quick. Just want to see. All righty. Long regarded place influential theologian Martin Luther died on the 18th day. So this is right before the sun enters Pisces. It's the final degree, 29 degrees Aquarius the sun would have been at, along with Martin Luther's birthhouse in Islesbend and other sites associated with Martin Luther in Wittenberg, right, blah, 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 yakety schmackety. Continue, scroll down. Oh, okay, it's right there. Luther died 62, the reason for, okay, go back to Britannica, or did you already took that off somewhere? You would have to kind of research for him again then, right? I'm telling you, there's something wrong with homie's lungs. because the heart would talk to the sun, actually, even though we will probably have to look at things as far as his zodiacal release. And we're not going to go that far. You know what I mean? But I'm just looking at it, because, what terms was his sun on? Interessante. That is so in Deutsch on some parts. What terms is his sun on?
Ooh, like Saturn terms.
Where's Saturn? Oh, on Mercury terms. That's why I said I think it's something with the lungs. Because Jupiter's in, okay, that explains the kidney stones. That really explains the kidney stones. Interesting. So maybe something could have been possibly with his heart then due to maybe irregular blood flow through the kidneys, not filtering things. What is cardiac infarct? So let's see what that is. Is that like TIA, where he's having like murmurs and stuff?
Infarct. Cardiac.
Oh, okay. They're calling it kind of the same thing, like occlusion, cardiac occlusion. Lack of blood flow. I just said lack of blood flow. Look at that shit. I just said that, bro. That's amazing. That's actually pretty amazing.
A heart attack is also called a myocardial infarction.
Muscles begin to die. So, and I'm thinking that's because the kidneys, along with the liver, but the kidneys couldn't get rid of certain things due to the stones. Now, watch when you go back to that Britannica one. You know what I mean? It says something about kidney stones, bro. Because my eye caught it just briefly. Yeah, it was on the one that you just did the heart attack joint with. So you might have to just type a new one, open up a new joint, maybe a new tab, But that just kind of makes sense though, bro. It's very interesting. There it goes. There it goes. Right? And as you scroll down, I remember seeing something pertaining to, keep going. Hold on, slow up. Go back just a little bit. Go up a little more. Stop. Go up a little more. Back up and stop. It's not there. Go up a little more. Stop. Go up some more. Continue to go up a little more. Yeah, before the diet of worms, I think maybe. I think I recall seeing it. That's right, Basil. You let them know. Scroll up some more. Scroll up some more. All right, go down now. It's under excommunication. I did see that. Hold on.
That's the diet of worms.
It's a little after that. Okay, it's after that, I'm sure. Later years. Hold on, stop. Cause and the cause of reform. Okay, scroll down some more. Okay, continue. Can keep scrolling. Boom, right there. There it is. There it goes. There it goes. right there.
Yeah,
I think, yeah. That's why I was like, what if it's something dealing with blood flow? Then, especially when it comes to things with the kidneys, he wasn't able to rid himself of some things. And it backed up into his blood to the point where it might have started having muscles fail, so to speak. Right. Let's see. From the mid 1530s, Luther was plagued by kidney stones and an obvious coronary condition. Somewhat sheepishly, he attributed his poor health to the severity of his life in the monastery. Okay, so you're blaming that. He nevertheless continued his academic teaching from 1535 to 1545, lectured on the book of Genesis, one of his insightful biblical expositions, and preached regularly at the city church until his colleague, Johannes Bugenhagen assumed that responsibility. Even then, Luther continued to preach in the Augustinian monastery. After the death of one of his oldest friends, Nicolaus Hausmann, in 1538, and that of his daughter Magdalene 4 years later, references to death became increasingly abundant in Luther's correspondence. Thus, he wrote in June 1543 letter, a friend, he desires that there be given him a good little hour when he can move onward to God. He has had enough. He is tired. He has become nothing. And he's asking people to pray earnestly for him so that the Lord may take his soul in peace. And in February 1546, Luther journeyed, despite his failing health, to Isles Bend, and the town where he was born. He set out to mediate an embarrassing quarrel between two young and arrogant noblemen, the Counts Albrecht and Gebhard, pertaining to Mansfeld. He was successful, and so he informed his wife in what proved to be his last letter. One day later, on 18th February, death came. His body was interred in the Castle Church in Wittenberg. Okay. So yeah, okay. So definitely blood flow. I said it was lungs, and it's funny though that Jupiter in Libra with the kidney stones, that just makes sense. But I was looking at the third house portion of it all also. And I still think he might have had issues with breathing. He doesn't look like the most fit Albion's son in some of those depictions. However, while we know, Martin Luther could be a whitewashed image of some Moor, actually, just to be honest with you. So, okay, I guess we can finish off a little with, now let's go back to see Martin Luther's chart in Synastry with Martin Luther King's chart. It's funny, they're both earth signs. Martin Luther King is a Capricorn. Pardon me, not earth signs. One's an earth sign, one's a water sign, 60 degrees apart. That's where I meant to kind of go with that. Right? So that's very interessante.
But yeah, Martin Luther King's his Saturn trines Martin Luther's ascendant. Wowzers.
Look at that. That's highly interesting.
That Sun in that South Node conjunction, and then the vertex in Sun conjunction.
Mm-hmm.
Moi. What's going? Wow.
Yeah. Is that his spirit? So hold on. Martin Luther King's spirit was in, wow, even that sextile between them two. They're parts of spirit. So Martin Luther started out in a 27-year period for his spirit. Wow. Wow. And his fortune was in the 15-year period. So he started out peaking. Martin Luther started out on a peak, period. Like literally started out on a peak period. They're squaring each other. I think it's also pretty interesting that Martin Luther King's vertex and Martin Luther's vertex are almost completely square. It's literally just
23 minutes.
23 minutes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
Yeah. I think that's highly interesting. And Martin Luther's Jupiter, Martin Luther King's sun is square. Martin Luther's Jupiter. Okay, so that means, what I'm actually then seeing then is by being, it's so sad too, by being called Martin Luther King after being Michael King Jr., which he probably would have fared a little further being Michael. He could have been cycling and Michaeling a little longer. It almost shows a midpoint between, like his sun is almost midpointing just by sign, midpointing Jupiter and the nodes, Martin Luther's nodes.
I see that.
That's really interesting to kind of observe here. And to look even further into, that whole ascendant. Matter of fact, how much far off is that? 31 plus 48. So that makes it 1 degree, 17 minutes between Martin Luther King's ascendant and Martin Luther's midheaven. So it's like now Martin Luther King is going to further carry out the career of Martin Luther, especially once his energy is called upon him.
Yeah, and look at where Martin Luther's North Node and Martin Luther King's Jupiter. So yeah, that expanding, yeah.
Yeah, that's really tough. Expanding his soul's destiny.
Yeah.
It's like, here, I'm gonna pass you this baton 400 years later.
But he took it though. Like that was, it's interesting.
I think if we could go in a parallel universe and see, I think there's a parallel universe where there's only Michael King.
How old do you think he fared to? Like he definitely made it a little bit further.
I think he would have made it a little further being Michael King. Because I would have much rather be Mikhail than Martin Luther. Because it almost seems like with that comes not only a denationalization for wanting to be having Blacks recognized, but it's a despiritualization because you came with the angel pertaining to the sun, and now you boiled it down to someone. You literally are in the Protestant spirit, even down to one's calling.
Yeah. Gosh. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
This is some whole other shit, but like second floor, second coming, like he kept jumping because he's like, yo, this ain't right. It's not funny, but it's like, ugh.
It was almost like if it's like, what's that movie with the stay woke? What's it? Get out. It's it's almost like Michael King was overtaken by Martin Luther, and he did all his best. But maybe all those attempts out the second floor window was to kill off that consciousness. It's like, fuck it, I'll come in the next life. I'm just being entertaining at this moment, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know.
But I mean that there's something to that, man. There's really something to that. Like he did it multiple times. Like I'm going, damn.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly, then, would that now put Martin Luther's son in
Yeah, that
Martin
was a
Luther King's
transfer
eighth
process.
house. Huh? What'd you say?
I said, yeah, they transferred because that Chiron, his South Node is conjunct Martin Luther's Chiron too.
And
Yeah.
and when I said North Node earlier. That is something.
Hold on.
But
Go ahead. I yield. I yield.
Each time he did the window jumping, wasn't it related to something with his grandmother?
Mm-hmm.
First time she thought she transitioned. The second time is when she did transition, right?
Correct.
Yes.
And given that mother is really responsible for who comes through here, it was his grandmother. But see, it was his grandmother, but it was his vibration first. So that makes me, we're not going to go there now, but it really makes me want to investigate his grandmother further. What type of shit was she into?
Working with them energies. Was she like a root woman or something? And you said Martin Luther's North Node is conjunct Martin Luther King's Chiron. Did I get that properly? Correct?
No,
I said Martin Luther King's South Node is trine Martin Luther's Chiron.
Oh, okay, trine. Okay, yes, you're exactly correct. Yeah, in the eighth house, and that's why I said, is that Martin Luther King's eighth house? Can you see his chart solely real quick? Martin Luther King's chart by itself. Is that his eighth house? It's 27 degrees Scorpio in his eighth house. Oh no, that's still his seventh. Interessante. It's like he partnered up with him. Seriously. It's like he partnered up with him. That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting,
To the home. So Martin,
it's like his dad like sold his son out and trained his son up to be a part of that. Like, and I don't like using I think like his the father sold out term, but you know how they be like, oh, well, you got to do this for this. Just
No, I'm with that. I'm with that because I think his father technically is. It's interesting how the fucking pattern falls too. Let's say his father is the 10th house. We already know father can be 4th house in horror astrology. Let's say his father is the 10th house. It's on Mars terms, but it's on a Saturn ruled sign. And his dad was the one that traveled near Germany, quote unquote, looked at something pertaining to Martin Luther, and then called himself and his son that. So technically, Martin Luther King Jr. could have declared and proclaimed his nationality. Chose his own, calling and corrected it, that which his father put on him. So now you got double hearsay. First it's hearsay that you're Michael, then it's hearsay that you're Martin Luther. But energy, you still carried it out.
In too deep. I'm in too deep.
You ain't no cop, Jay Reed. That's an in too deep reference.
Yes.
So it's like you ain't no Protestant reformer, Michael King. Right? However, I yield the floor, bro. I mean, bros, go in. You know what I mean? I'm open. I'm open-minded, open ears.
I yielded this will.
I say play Brother Taj one more time.
Play Brother Taj.
Play that joint one more time. Yeah.
All right, let me
that's how we're gonna go out. So yes, thank you all for joining us today. Once again, gratitude to Brother Sign Majors up to Exalted Cyclops for joining us today. This is very interesting. So now watch the snowball effect of us going on this today. And we've got what? About a strong, what they would say, a week, or actually not, like 6 days till his solar return.
Yeah, because his
The
solar
15th?
return is the last day pertaining to Prophet Noble Drali, Moorish American Week.
American Week. Just I'm gonna just pay attention and watch and just think how things are gonna come up, because we're gonna chop the F about this video, so and have it posted. And yeah, to whoever had to took the video down, I got it. That's to you.
So and just to recap, right? How Martin Luther King, Michael King Jr. manifested 6 months, 5 days prior to Prophet Noble Drali leaving off the scene. However, he also manifested 7 days after Prophet Noble Drali's 43rd solar return. Just want to put that into you guys' mindset also, just to comprehend that. 7 days, one strong later, right? Because 8 plus 7 equals 15. Right? So 7 days after the 8th, here comes Michael Kang.
Okay.
So in the chat, shout out to our beloved brother in whom we're well pleased, Brother R. Muwaba Bay. He's filling in with the Paragon Rico there, which I'm going to make sure I get that song that Brother R just released, right? Let me double check and make sure I am saying the title appropriately, right?
What was
the
it?
title?
Keep going. Yeah.
Let's see. Let me make sure I'm going to look at it. Let me look at it. All right. Here we go. It is Never Give Up.
Never give up.
Right.
Okay, there we go.
Ara Muwaba Bay just released a song on the Paragon Rico YouTube channel called Never Give Up. And that will be the music that I choose to do my B-roll edits that will soon be posted to TikTok and Instagram, as well as probably Facebook and everything else. So with that being said, shout out to Brother R. Muwaba Bay, chiming in on the Paragon Rico account in the chat. Halo City Young, that's Brother Al Nor Latif L. It says Islam Moors, along with Brother R. Islam Moor, peace and love to all. Happy Merry Moorish Christmas. And that's referring to Prophet Noble Drali's solar return, right? He also says honors to Prophet Noble Drali, and we are in full agreement with that. Our brother Ara says that's a scholarly writing violation. Probably he's talking about African American and white and all that stuff, definitely. Right? More and more like I am. That was his favorite song. He wants to be more and more like I am, right? Okay. That was, Martin Luther King's favorite song to sing, right? And then K. Brooks Chap says that they were waiting for his Playboy tendencies to enter the chat. All right, maybe they're talking about Martin Luther King being, flirtatious with the ladies because he's the most happening jitterbug on the block, I guess. I guess that's what that refers to, maybe. However, thank you all for interacting with us in the chat. We appreciate you all, and we love you all. Actually, can I do this before I play Brother Taj's portion, which I actually have there, right? Let me actually see if I can cue this first, right? And then we'll play Brother Taj's portion on our way out. So let me go here to the Zoom and share screen just very quickly, right? Start the broadcast there, all right? And here we go.
Yeah, but that was only like half an hour, Brother Corey, for that to happen.
Yeah, that's
For my
nuts.
brothers who will never get old, I'll never fold. Yeah. Pushing knowledge till the day I lay down and never get up. I know they love me, let them wait till I'm gone. I never let up, sometimes it bugs me, that's internal myself. I gotta build up, it's like a pressure building stressor. Just know that I'll never give up. Pushing knowledge till the day I lay down and never get up. I know they love me, let them wait till I'm gone. I never let up, sometimes it bugs me, that's internal myself. I gotta build up, it's like a pressure building stressor. Just like you know, I'll never give up. For my brothers who will never get old, I'll never fold. 10 toes ain't enough to explain how solid I've grown, but I avoid the streets now. Hood cats embrace me, but I'm on my feet now. Thinking like a leader be the only way to feed the need of spiritual growth, a hunger pain that's so insane it seems the other side is greener. It ain't either. Supporting slavery, that's what we're doing. My drink of choice is the liberation I'm brewing. I'm just flowing through it. You understand I got this. Some try their best, but they are not this. I cannot miss, so every track is a hit. How are you not hip? How can they love me but treating me like I'm not shit? How can they free their own minds when they will not think? Till the day I lay down and never get up. I know they love me, let them wait till I'm gone. I never let up, sometimes it bugs me, that's internal myself. I gotta build up, it's like a pressure building stressor. Just know that I'll never give up. Pushing knowledge till the day I lay down and never get up. I know they love me, let them wait till I'm gone. I never let up, sometimes it bugs me, that's internal myself. I gotta build up, it's like a pressure building stressor. Just know that I'll never give up.
So you guys go and check that out on the Paragon Rico, right? YouTube page. Go and run those numbers up. Make sure you hit that like button. So and definitely subscribe, because actually all the bros, right? And I have a couple more music theory sessions to actually do with my bros. However, we're all very instrumental in that which we bring forward, and everybody kind of technically, I mean, as far as the songwriters at this time, Brother Aura, Brother Corey, and myself, you know, we got something very special cooking up for you guys, honestly, and we're going to have fun with it. We're going to make it easy for you guys at first, so we're not going to tell you what it's going to be. It's got quite a few projects, and including when it comes to writing, I and Brother Sean also on another writing project. However, it's going to include all the brothers. It's just that it's off of a astrological, zodiacal idea that I and Brother Sean had discussed in conversation, and you know, you guys will see some contributions that's going to come forward, and you know, I'm going to leave it at that, right? So this is what I'm going to do here now, and let's take this back to 113, right? And this is what we're going out on before Brother Sean does his outro. So let's listen to this in lieu of us going in on Martin Luther King, right? Martin Luther King Jr.'s natal chart, progress chart, and transit chart. All right.
That's why they keep building jails, because they can't deport you. That's the truth. You know, and the real ugly thing about this stuff is that your leader guys know this stuff. That's why Martin, who was a 32-degree Mason, said that what y'all refugees in your own land. Then he talked about your Great Seal Pyramid, because he's a 33-degree Mason. He says, I've been to the mountaintop, and I've seen the promised land. I might not get there with you, but we as a people will make it to the promised land. He's talking about the concept of the Great Seal, but you can't talk about the Don because you're done. That's why they, you know, it's supposed to be for the temple of Solomon. Although they hit him in his neck, they was aiming for the temple. It's Masonic assassination. Yeah, he was assassinated. Yeah, because he was start talking against the Pope's army. You know, with that Vietnam thing, he started talking about the Pope's army. And when they smacked him upside the head with that brick when they was marching across that bridge, he said something really wrong with these people. And he started getting a little bit more radical. And that wasn't good, because he was supposed to be an overseer. Because he had an assignment to interject in all of the so-called organizations, particularly like the Panthers, those who were doing positive things, and take the credit. Just like the breakfast stuff, that was with the Panthers, not him. The March on Washington, that was the Pampers, not him. He was interjected. But he got frustrated at a while and started telling the truth, because he's 33-degree Mason, but you can't give no signals that you're getting ready to break the seal. Step on the Roman seal and you go on. Do you understand? And same thing with Kennedy. When Kennedy started bringing the Gold Act in, that gold, they talking about gold and silver that belonged to you, because remember, the Christians came here to steal our gold and silver. That's their whole mission. We keep forgetting real history. That's why they bumped him off. Do you understand what I'm saying? For trying to bring the gold back in. But anyway.
I yield the floor to my beloved brother, in whom I'm well pleased. Brother Sean.
Gratitude, broski, man, for that find today, yo. Like, whoo.
Yeah, bro. Islam.
Once again, thank you to you all. And I would say just watch out for things getting closer to Michael Martin King, Luther King, soul return. And once again, honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali for his soul return, and peace and love to everyone for the Moorish American Week. Y'all
American strong.
Strong, pardon me. Yeah, the Moorish American strong.
I know, because I said it earlier, but I'm just saying, let's just, do what we do. You know what I mean? Because what are we doing this year?
What you doing this sun cycle?
It's long. All day, every day. But yeah, bro.
All right, y'all enjoy the rest of your moon day. Jurisprudence Gym Tuesday and Thursday, and we'll be back Wednesday for the Astro Weather Report. So thank you all. Peace and love to you all. 7 Hill Star, we are out.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Hey, peace and love, y'all.
Meant that sign. Peace and love. That sounds good. Yeah.
Indeed, brother.